Hey guys, welcome back into Legacy. So I managed to get up my book for Dragon Warriors, and I am going to go ahead and do my magic video today. It's going to take a couple of minutes to go through, so be prepared. Um, magic in Dragon Warriors, first off, is very rare. There are technically 8 types of spellcasters you can play if you count all the different elementalists as different classes. Um, you have the Mystic, the Sorcerer, the Elementalist, which there's 4 subtypes of, and then you have the Mystic. Each of them kind of do things a little differently than each other. Um, and the way that they cast is pretty simplistic. You get a starting base of, with everybody but the Mystic, of magic points, starting based on your rank. Starting with a Sorcerer, you get 4 magic points per level. You cannot cast spells higher than your rank. So if you have a level 2 spell in your repertoire, but you're rank 1, you cannot cast a level 2 spell until you hit level 2. So you're rank 2. That's pretty simplistic. Magic points, of course, grow by level. So using the Sorcerer table, your second level, you have 8, then you have 12, then 15, yada, 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 yada. And it's the higher the level you are, the more magic points you get. Spells cap out at level 10, although you can go past rank 10 as a sorcerer. So, I apologize. Expended magic points regenerate precisely midnight, and it happens automatically. There's no rituals or anything you have to do to get them back. It just happens once the clock turns over. So magic points are pretty simplistic. Mystics do something a little different for casting spells. They do not get magic points. They get a check called a psychic fatigue check. And the psychic fatigue check, what it does is when you cast a spell, you have to make a roll of 13 plus your rank minus the spell's level on a d20. So if you try to cast a level 3 spell and you're rank 3, that's going to be a 16. It's going to be a 13 or under on a d20. If you fail it, you cannot cast spells for the rest of the day. You have to rest. Period. Again, resets at midnight. So, and then elementalists get a little bit different. They actually get a little different spell points. So they get spell points in each of the 3 categories they choose. So what happens is when you choose to become an elementalist, you choose 1 primary and 2 secondaries. So you can be like an earth elementalist, fire elementalist, and air elementalist. Their category is a little different. You get 3 points to start with in your primary category and 1 in each of your secondary categories to cast spells from. They drain separately, can only be used to cast spells from that category. So you can't use, say, earth magic points to cast a fire spell. And the spells in the book are categorized properly. So when they actually get done with all of their spell points, they must do rituals at certain times of the day based on the element. Takes about a minute and requires some level of privacy, but you get to do that. You get to get all your magic points back when you do that. For example, fire has to do their ritual at sunrise, air has to be done at noon, water at moonrise, earth when the moon sets, and then darkness at sunset. So it's not very hard to do. And then warlocks gain spell points just like sorcerers, but they gain a lot less. They start with 2, and they cap off, and they basically gain 2 a level, 2 a rank as they rank up, and that's the basics of the system. How you actually cast the spell, and then actually casting a spell is done pretty simply. A spell is going to be done on one of 2 ways. It's either going to depend on if it's direct attack or if it's an indirect attack spell. A direct attack spell is anything that affects the character that you're trying to affect magically or supernaturally. Indirect is anything that would cause like physical damage, like a dragon breath. So, if you're attacking with an indirect spell, it is an evasion check. So you're going to minus their evasion again, or your speed from their evasion, and they're going to have to roll under it to get, to do that. And we'll go back through that when I go through the core rules again. But speed and evasion are pretty simple. It's a 2d10 check. You're going to take your evasion minus the speed of the attack and try to roll under it. If it's a direct attack, that's where your magical attack and magical defense scores come into play. Again, this is done on 2d10s rather than a d20. If you minus magical defense from magical attack, try to roll under it on a 2d10. If you succeed, the spell goes off, the effect happens. If you fail, the effect does not happen. Kind of common sense stuff right there. As far as all that goes, the big thing is going to be the fact that on a 2d10 roll, a 2 is always a success, a 20 is always a fail, because there is no 1. That's the big thing to remember. And that's really how you resist it. Certain abilities will function as if they were magical attacks. Touch of a white, the gaze of a basilisk, things like that, are considered direct attack spells or function the exact same as direct attack spells, which is pretty simplistic as far as how that goes. You know, spells, of course, you have a spell reach. You have a spell, reach on it. It's going to have a maximum range. You can also overlap spells, so you can actually stack spells on yourself. In their example, they use the idea of putting on spell screen, vorpal blade, warding, invisibility, and armor before wading into a fight. So you can actually do that kind of stuff in this game as long as you have the points to do so. Spell duration is a little awkward in this game, in that spells have a couple of different durations. You have instantaneous spells, which are going to be things that happen automatically. Shadow bolts, dragon breaths, cures. Those are instantaneous. They just a blink and they're gone, kind of things. Then you have what are called durational spells. Durational spells may have a set duration, say 10 minutes, or they can have what's called spell expiry roll applies. Spell expiry roll is something that you're going to roll if you're in combat every round. At the start of the round, for each spell expiry spell you have active, you roll 2d6. If you roll a 12, the spell expires. Again, not complicated. Does add a little bit of an extra layer to combat, which is one of the reasons I encourage people not to get into Magic when they first play this game, because it adds a couple extra layers to the game. Warlock spells, almost all their spells have spell expiry rolls, and they do not use 2d6. They use a d20, where a 20 immediately ends the spell. Everything else keeps the spell going. So you have a 5% chance every round that the spell is going to go away. And there are rolls for spell expiry if you need it to take longer. Say you want to do it every minute because you're in between combats, you're in between scenes, whatever. You can have the character roll. For elementalists, mystics, and sorcerers, it's a 75% chance that it stays on, and a 25% chance spell. So if you roll to 76 or greater, the spell expires. Warlocks only get 60% chance. So again, roll 61 to 100, the spell wears off. Not super complicated rules wise, but very detailed rules on how expiration works. There is chances of failure for elementalists and sorcerers when they wear armor. Mystics and warlocks do not take this chance at all because they're trained to wear armor, and they don't do the gesticulation and everything else when they cast spells. It ranges from 10 to 30% based on the armor you're wearing, and that's just how it happens. Furthermore, if you miscast a spell while wearing armor, you get a random spell from that level that casts instead. You'll randomly roll to see what spell goes off. So if you have 6 spells, you try to cast one of them, you miscast, you roll a d6, whatever number comes up, you kind of assign them numbers, you go through them like in order and assign them a number, and whatever number comes up is the actual spell you get. And then you have to deal with whatever happens. So actually casting an armor in this game is not just a matter of losing your spells, it's a matter of also you miscast and you hurt yourself. Now on top of that, it doubles the point cost of the spell. So a spell that normally costs, say, 2 points suddenly costs 4. It's not fun. And then durational spells, you can actually cancel them at any time. You basically just cancel anytime. If it has a spell expiry roll applied, you get half the magic points back that you used to cast it. So again, say you cast a 4th rank spell, costs 4 points, you terminate it early, you get 2 points back. Anything that has a set duration just lasts. That's just how it is. And of course, instantaneous durations are instantaneous durations. You can also overpower spells by putting additional points into them that allow you to get with direct damage spells to bypass certain spells to get through certain abilities, like Wall of Magic, which gives you a certain magic point barrier that has to be higher than that to bypass in order to damage the character behind it. So if the Wall of Magic is operating at 4 magic points, you're casting a 3 magic point spell, you can put an extra 2 points into it to bypass the Wall of Magic. Again, this gets into a little bit of the weeds there, but it's absolutely able to pump more magic points. You do not have to pump the minimum. You can pump as much as you need to bypass magical defenses at all times, which is called casting above your level. The way they phrase it, you put extra magic points into a spell to help punch through magical defenses. Mystics cannot do that, but they can choose to cast above its normal level. This increases the chance of psychic fatigue because it's a more powerful spell. As an example, consider Shugindo Sai, a mystic who's about to attack an enemy sorcerer. Suspecting that his foe has put up a 4 magic point wall of magic, Shugindo Sai casts his Enthrall as an 8th level spell. He makes a psychic fatigue check just as he casts a level 8 spell. His Enthrall, after losing the equivalent of 4 magic points to the wall, is reduced to 4th level and attacks the sorcerer normally. So, like I said, you can actually overcast and to get through magical defenses. Guys, that is the basics of Magic. It's not super duper difficult to understand. Like I said, a little different. It uses a different die code to deal damage, but it does do a lot of really cool things. And Magic is limited. Instead of Vancian, it's limited by magic points and by your rank. So your first rank character is only going to really be able to cast first rank spells, even if you get access somehow to higher rank spells. Magic in this game can be very versatile, very useful, but can also be very situational, I would argue is the term I'd use. So keep in mind when you want to play a sorcerer or any of those classes, they're good. And then hopefully this video will help you understand a little more when I start talking about the sorcerer and I start talking about the warlock and the elementalist and all of that, how they play. And if you are watching this video after you've watched those videos, hopefully it explains some of the things I explained in that video. But anyways, guys, as always, we welcome your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns. And as always, we hope to see you guys around the game table at some point.